Alright, this video is going to go over input and output redirection. A word of caution, I will be demonstrating things that are similar to what you need to do in the exercises for Module 3, but you should not try to follow this exactly because it's not going to be the same thing. I'm looking at different data and I'm going to be doing different things. So basically I'm in Module 3 demo, where you should be looking at Module 3 data. So just follow through the quiz and do these things, do similar things, look at the hints, but don't just try to follow along with what I'm doing, because it's not going to be what you need to do. So with that being said, one of the powerful things about Linux is that there are tons of small utilities that do one thing, and they do that one thing well. And you can use those utilities and you can combine them together to do complex things. So if you look at the beginning page that I directed you to back in Module 0 or Module 1, this guy says, hey, so why you even bother doing things? This is a perfect example. There was a problem on the system. The server was full, but nobody could figure out why. So he talks about somebody writing a C++ program to try to figure it out. He said he spent the better part of a day trying to figure it out. So he shows up and he comes in and he basically runs a couple of commands and redirects it into a file and solves the problem. So basically, the du command says, hey, show me how much disk space is being used. The pipe character says, hey, take that output and send it into the input of this other command. So he sorts it and he uses this symbol, the greater than, to redirect it into a file. So he replaced basically a whole day's work of some other guy with a few commands. And that's one of the great things about Linux. So today we're going to be talking about how you can use some of these things to do a certain thing. First thing we want to talk about is where I am in the directory structure. I'm currently in Home, Exercises, Module 3, Demo, DirX, and I created a directory for myself called RBE 0000. So you're going to do something similar. You're just going to be in a different place for the exercises. And now we're going to do a couple things. Since I'm down here in this RBE 000 directory, and this Module 3 demo directory is the interesting directory, I'm going to be using a relative path to show me things. So essentially, I'm going to be putting // // So the first / takes me back up to DirX, and the second / takes me back up to Module 3 demo. So this is going to let me see the things that are in the Module 3 demo directory. Let me see the list of files. So basically, I do ls. It shows me the list of files. First thing we're talking about is output redirection. When you run a command, if you want to save the output of the command, you can use a greater than character to save the output into a file. So here I'm going to use a greater than, and I'm going to put it in a file called ls output. And you see it didn't come to the screen anymore. By default, commands put their output to the screen, which is called standard output. It did not come to the screen. It went into my file. So now if I want to look at my file, I can use the cat command to see what is in my file. So there I ran the cat command and I see the contents of my file. So a greater than will write it to a file. The greater than will overwrite the file if the file exists. So there I had, if we look at my ls output file, again, I have a list of the directories that are in that file. If I wanted to do something else, say I wanted to, ls of my current directory, and I wanted to put that into ls output as well, thinking, hey, I'll just add to my file. If I do the single greater than, that's going to overwrite my file. So now I only have the most recent running of the command. So if I really wanted to create a running file of all the output, I would do the command with the single greater than, right? That's going to create my file. And then if I wanted to put more output in that file, then I could use two greater thans. Two greater thans means append, right? So that will append to the file. So now if I look at my file, I have my original file, and then I also have my original output, then I also have the ls output. So when should you use one versus the other? Well, it depends on what you're doing. If you don't care about keeping the data long term, then you can use a single greater than to put the data in there every time it runs. If it's data you want to keep, then you should use the two greater thans to append it. So that is redirecting output, standard output. There's another thing that we have called standard input, and you can redirect standard input. And there are several ways you can do things in Linux. We're going to use the sort command to look at some stuff. So we want to sort our ls output file. And sort will sort it alphabetically by default. There are other options to change the way things are sorted, but we're just going to not worry about that for now. So if I run sort and I supply the argument of ls output, it will sort my command, right? There is another way we could do that. I almost never do this. I don't know why people do this. I guess whatever you get used to. But you can also redirect input. So this is the output redirection symbol. You can redirect input with the less than symbol, and you could put the name of the file you want to go in. So if I run this command, that's going to send the contents of the ls output file into the sort command, and it does the same thing as running sort ls output. So both of those commands do the same thing. So that is input redirection using the less than, which I almost never do. Another way you can get input into a command is by using a pipe character. The pipe character on my keyboard is above the enter key, the return character. I have to shift to get it. That's a pipe character. And if you combine commands with a pipe character, then the output of one command goes into the input of another command. So if I run the command cat, put my file name, and I put a pipe character and pipe that into sort, then that will send the output of cat into the input of sort, and it does exactly the same thing. So there are some differences in the way these things are processed, but most of the time they end up with the same results. So we just did 3 different things that did the same thing. We did sort with the file name, we did sort with the less than character and the file name, and then we did cat of the file and pipe that into sort. This is the way I almost always do it. That's just what I'm used to. I usually run cat in whatever I want and then pipe it into a command. So those are pipe characters, output redirection for standard input and standard output. We also have this other kind of output called standard error. If I try to display the contents of the files in the demo data, module 3 demo directory I created, if I use cat ... that's a relative path to get me back up to the module 3 demo directory, and I put the wildcard character of a star, that says, hey, go ahead and try to display the contents of all these files. If I do that, I get a lot of stuff to the screen. So basically, these lines are all errors. These lines are from files I have in that directory. These are more errors. These are more errors, and these are outputs. So those errors are kind of annoying. So we can redirect errors as well. So if I want to get rid of errors, I can say, hey, get rid of the errors. So this 2 greater than tells it to do something with the errors. 2 is a file descriptor for a standard error, and the greater than means redirect the standard error. So the easiest thing to do is put it in the trash. Dev null is pretty much a Linux trash can. So if there's something you don't want, you can redirect it into dev null, and that just makes it go away. So if I just want to get rid of the errors, I can run this command. So now we see that I ran it, the errors went away, and I can actually look at the contents of the files that are in that directory. Say you don't want to get rid of the errors. Say you want to save the errors. So I'll redirect it into a file called errors. And now I get the same output to the screen. I get the correct output without all the errors, but if I look at my current directory, I have a file called errors now. So I can cat errors to look at the errors. Let's say something else we might want to do. We might want to redirect the output of our command to the output file, right? So this will redirect the output to a file called output. So we run that. The errors came to the screen. The output file has the output. So, you know, that might not be what we want to do. We might want to see the errors. We might not want to see the errors. If we don't want to see the errors and don't care about them, we can redirect the output in this way, and then we can add a second redirection command to redirect the standard errors to the trash can. So if we look at our directory now, we have an output file. We have an output file. We still have an errors file, but the errors file is old, and our errors went to the trash can. That errors file was from before. So if we look at the long listing, we see that the errors file was from 958, where the output was from 959. So that's an old errors file. So this command will redirect the standard output to the output file and the errors to the trash can. So we could also do the output to the output file and the errors to the error file. Let me get rid of those files, because it gets confusing when the files still exist. And it's like, well, that file was already there. How do I know you're not confusing me? So now we don't have any files, so I can redirect the output to the output file and the errors to the error file. Errors to the error file. So now I have an output file and an error file. So I get my output file, I get my error file. So one other thing I will show you. Sometimes you may want the errors and the output to go to the same place. So the file descriptor for standard output is 1. So this little tricky thing says send the output to So this command says show me the contents of all the files from this place, send the output to a file called output and errors, and send the errors to the same place you're sending the output. This &1 means send the errors to the same place the output's going. So 2 greater than &1, send the errors to the same place as the outputs. If I run that, I get nothing displayed to the screen, but then if I look at my output and errors file, I have the output and the errors all interspersed together. So I know that was a lot that I went over pretty quickly. Greater than redirects output, 2 greater than appends output, 2, I said 2 greater than, 2 greater thans, a greater than appends the output, 2 and a greater than sign redirects the standard error, right? If you want to put it in a file, you put a file name. If you want to get rid of it, you send it to the trash can. So dev null is the trash can. So redirect it to dev null. We'll send it to the trash can. So that is some of the things you can do to redirect input and output, save things with files, save things to files from running your commands.